Okay, well, hopefully you enjoyed that video that showed you that it's not just 1950s people. Hopefully you could tell from the style of dress and stuff that this is more like the early OOs style people. But this is something that has been replicated over and over and over again across time, that this is what happens when you have a bunch of Confederates who are all giving the same wrong answer. Prior to the naive participant being given the opportunity to give the answer, you'll find that the naive participant either caves to pressure and ultimately says it's just not worth it, I'm just going to go along with what they're saying, or ultimately comes to think they actually are seeing things incorrectly. So let's talk about some of the factors that contribute to that informational type of social influence or conformity, or the normative conformity. First off, commitment to group. Normative conformity is definitely affected by commitment to group. The more committed you are to the group, the more likely you are to change your behavior to bring it into alignment with what other people in the group are doing, because you value the group and you want to be part of it. And so you don't want to rock the boat. You know, a lot of the things that we said about collectivistic culture emerges in groups when we really are committed to the group. Whether you're from an individualistic culture or a collectivistic culture, being committed to the group causes you to behave in ways that maintain the cohesion of the group and cause them to want you to stay in the group and things like that. The cohesiveness of the group. So if everybody in the group is on the same page, it's more likely that their behavior will be in alignment and more likely to influence your behavior to get into alignment with what they're all doing. So the more cohesive the group is, the more likely you are to conform to the norms of the group. Group size. So I thought this was a good comparison between the video that was the first one that I showed you about Ash that had just, I think it was a total of 5 men, 4 of them, well, 3 of them came before the naive participant. The last one came after him, but there were only 3 people prior to the naive participant, whereas in that second video, the more modern video, they had a larger group, right? I think it was 7 people altogether. The larger the group is, with everybody being in conformity, the more likely it is that an individual will go along with that group. Because, you know, if 7 people are all seeing these lines the same way, it's easier to convince yourself that they must be seeing it right and you're seeing it wrong. Like, why would they? It never would occur to you that they're all Confederates and deliberately giving a wrong answer, right? Instead, you think it's got to be you. I must be seeing it from an angle or something, right? Like something's gone wrong. So the larger the group is and they're all cohesive, the more likely it is to either contribute to informational social influence or conformity. Also, a larger group is more likely to trigger normative social influence. And by larger, I'm talking about that 4 people versus 7 people. I'm not talking about 4 people versus 100 people. I'm talking about in these smaller groups, but a larger small group, you know, right, 7. So it also can cause the normative social influence also, because if it's a larger group, it's more powerful when everybody turns and looks at you and makes it seem like, you know, you're weird for giving that wrong answer. And so you know, we don't like to have 7 people all turn their heads and look at us, whereas maybe we could tolerate 3 or 4 people doing that. And so group size can have big influence. Now I corrected it to make sure that I was using words in a way that made sense, because when we have a large group, like more than 10, we can start to get little subgroups that emerge, and that can undermine the conformity. So that's sort of a separate thing, right? So if you have a group probably up to about 7 that are all in agreement, that's going to have a lot more influence on us than if you have a group of, you know, 4 or fewer. So that's what we're talking about there. All right, so now this is a really fun, what do you call it, field study, where they actually went out into the world and tried to influence complete strangers out on the street. So I will see you on the other side of this video.